My name is Kathleen Kent. I'm a writer. I think I've always wanted to be a writer. I went to college at UT with that in mind, but I went to work, lived and worked in New York for 20 years until I felt I had the resources and the time to be able to write on a full-time basis. So I moved from New York to Texas, and that's when I started writing full-time. I think in many ways it was much more difficult to begin as a novelist. I had written short stories and poetry, and writing those short works is so much easier than writing in the long form. So it was much more difficult than I thought it was. It took me 5 years to write my first book, my first novel, and it was not only to do the research for the book, but to actually learn the craft of writing a novel. So in that way, it was quite a challenge. Primarily historical fiction. That was always my first love. My first pull towards reading was historical fiction, and my first 3 novels are historical fiction. The first 2 set in 17th century New England, and the third book in post-Civil War Texas. But recently I've started writing more contemporary fiction, so again, this is a whole new adventure for me. Well, I had no contacts in publishing after I'd written my first book, and so I had to go on faith that somebody else would enjoy reading the story that I had written. The first novel is based on family history, and I just started sending out query letters to agents, hoping that someone would love the story and agree to try to get the book published. I got a lot of rejections. I got close to 60 rejections before I found an agent in New York that really loved the first book, and she was the one to get me the publishing deal. So it took a while. I was delighted when the book was published. I was hoping that the universal themes of a family in crisis, courageousness, a coming-of-age story between a mother and a daughter would strike a chord with people. But I didn't really know until it was published and did as well as it did. It very quickly became a New York Times bestseller, and to date, The Heretic's Daughter is being published in 15 countries. Well, I think the biggest obstacle after writing the book in getting it published was finding representation, was getting an agent. I had never had anything published before, so being the age that I was, I think it perhaps was harder to get an agent to pay attention to the manuscript. The challenges are the same as any struggling writer trying to publish their first book, and that is getting somebody to read it first of all, and then take a chance publishing it, hoping that it will find a wide readership. My favorite part about writing, other than doing the research, which I really love. Some people find it tedious, but I love the research part because it's like treasure hunting. You never know what you're going to discover in support of the narrative that you're writing. But I guess the other part would have to be the inspiration. That doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen every day, every hour, every minute. Sometimes days can go by without that feeling of being truly inspired, that eureka moment. But when it hits, when it settles on you, that's really exciting, because the feeling is you've tapped into something profound about the human experience, and being able to write about that is really exciting. I think one of the main strengths of being able to pursue a writing career are twofold. One, you have to be able to tolerate sort of the boredom, the in-between periods, in between inspiration, and being able to tolerate a blank screen, because you're not going to find that the writing part comes in a fluid way all the time. Sometimes it comes in spurts, sometimes it has very jagged edges, and there's a long time in between the idea and finding the right words to express that idea. So I think a lot of it is being able to bear up under the waiting to find the right words to express the right thought. Well, the first 3 novels that I've written were historical fiction, and I recently had a short story that was published in a crime anthology. So what I'm working on now is a novel-length work based on this short story. It's contemporary crime, it's set in Dallas, it's very different than the first 3 novels. So it's a bit of a leap of faith, taking on a new genre, but I think creativity thrives on risk-taking. So I'm hoping that this risk will feed the creative fire and develop something really exciting.